All of these cleaning things are something that should be done regularly, not just in the springtime.
Spring cleaning is so deeply embedded in our culture that it's almost impossible not to get the urge to vacuum, dust, and empty out the refrigerator and kitchen cabinets. The arrival of spring, though, also means more frequent trips to the farmer's market, outdoor grilling, and getting ready to preserve those fresh fruits and vegetables that will be growing and harvesting throughout the spring and summer. On today's Sound Living, tips for cleaning the kitchen and outdoor grill, shopping at the local farmer's market, and preserving fresh fruits and vegetables for later use. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman. K-State Research and Extension food scientist Karen Blakeslee and coordinator of the Rapid Response Center at Kansas State says cleaning the kitchen involves a lot of emptying and scrubbing. Karen, everybody's kind of into that spring cleaning mindset right now, and one of the biggest problems is the kitchen because there are really several things to clean within the kitchen. You've got counters, appliances, cabinets. Where do we start when it comes to this?
I think I would suggest to start with the cabinets. Clean everything out. Look for any packages that have any damage to them, that are leaking. You got stuff spilled in the cabinets themselves. Give them a good wipe down with a damp cloth, maybe even a little warm soapy water. Because if you leave those spills inside the cabinet, that's going to attract bugs. And you don't want that to happen. And then take inventory of what you have in there.
This is also an opportunity, I would imagine, then, as you're putting things back in to maybe do a little bit of organizing, maybe with some Tupperware or dividers, different kinds of organizing tools?
Sure. And, you can group things together, like putting all your canned soups together, all your vegetables together, so you kind of know what's where, and at least try to keep you organized. There's all kinds of stacking systems and shelves. If you got wasted space above, some of the canned foods that you have in your cabinet or even packaged goods, you can buy those portable type shelves and add an extra layer in there so that you can fill up the space in your cabinets.
And you also want to check the dates on some of those things too, because baking powder, baking soda can all go bad.
Yeah, they lose their power. Over time, those chemicals that are in those products, they just lose their effectiveness. So pay attention to those dates.
In terms of the refrigerator, a lot of the same thing, except in this case, you can take a lot of the drawers and shelves out and wash them and then put them back.
Exactly, yeah. And all of these cleaning things are something that should be done regularly, not just in the springtime. I know. We like to talk about it now because spring, it's new, everything's getting bright and freshened up. But the refrigerator is an equally important spot to clean. Take everything out, unplug your refrigerator first, and then take everything out. And if you can take the shelves and the drawers out, that makes it a whole lot easier to clean those. Wash them in good hot soapy water and dry them real well. Always refer to your manual for your appliance to make sure that you're using the right type of product for that appliance. Usually some kind of all-purpose cleaner works really well. You could even make a baking soda water solution just to kind of wipe things down afterwards to kind of freshen the inside of the cabinet up that way. Always clean up the spills and do that as you go. As soon as you see them, clean them up. That's the best thing to do. And then take inventory again of what you have in there. If you got some old products, old bottles of condiments like ketchup, mustard, things like that, maybe it's time to get rid of them.
Not something that has to be done all in one weekend. You can kind of spread this out, maybe do the cabinets one day and the refrigerator and the floors and that another day.
Yeah, exactly. Take your time in doing this. And don't forget your oven and your microwave, too. Microwaves, clean those as you go, because if you leave spills in there, then you keep reusing your microwave. It's just going to keep getting more baked on and harder to clean. So if you have a glass tray that rotates in there, you can take that out and wash it really well, clean underneath that, and always wipe down the inside of the cabinet. And then your regular oven, depending on the kind of oven that you have, follow the manufacturer's instructions on how to do that. A lot of today's ovens have a self-cleaning cycle. open up a window and run the self-cleaning cycle on your oven because it does create some smoke and some off odors. So give your oven and your microwave oven a good cleaning inside and outside.
Spring also means a lot of grilling. We want to make sure that we've got the outdoor grill ready to go.
Yeah, it's time to fire up that grill because it's getting warm outside. So take a good look at what the inside of your grill looks like. If you can take the grill plate off, you could soak it in some soapy water to try to get some of that burnt-on food off of that. Take a good stiff wire brush. Usually everybody has one of those grill brushes. And really scrub it down good with that grill brush to get it as clean as you possibly can. As you use your grill, after you've taken the food off, let it burn for a little longer. And that helps burn off the drips of the food that you had on there. So clean as you go. And that helps keep that maintenance down to a minimum.
I mentioned farmers markets, and spring is a great time to start visiting the farmers markets. When we talk about from a consumer standpoint, is this essentially like shopping at the grocery store? Should we kind of approach it the same way, have a list, know what you're looking for, but still be open to possibilities?
Oh, absolutely. And farmers markets are great ways to try something new. You may find some different kinds of foods out there in a farmer's market that you don't see in your regular grocery store. So be open to ideas. Take along your own bag. That way you can save on like the plastic bags and things like that. Always wash those reusable bags every once in a while to make sure they're clean. So, at least once a week, if you go to the farmer's market, you load up on your food, take it home, and then probably wash it. I think that's a good practice just to make sure it's good and clean.
You mentioned that there are probably going to be some products that you're not used to seeing. That's one nice thing about the farmers market. You can talk to the people who grew that produce, and you can ask them, what's the best way to use this?
Oh, absolutely. They experiment with their produce or whatever food they're growing, and they may have some good ideas on how to prepare it. There are some farmers markets that have chef demonstrations at them, and they will use products from the vendors that are there that day and come up with some creative ideas on how to use those. So check those out. Give them a try, and you might find something new that you'll like.
Is it okay to ask, how did you grow this? What's your garden setup?
Absolutely. That's a great way to get to know your farmer. Maybe you can make a good connection with them, and if they have something that you really enjoy, maybe they could save you extra, especially if you want to preserve it for later use. If you do any canning or freezing, get to know your farmers, find out how they grow them, see what kind of growing practices they have, and support your local farmers. It's a great thing to do.
Well, that's a question I have because sometimes people think because this is in an outdoor setting that it's almost like a flea market and you start bargaining. Is that something that they kind of discourage, or because you don't want to insult people?
No, but you can certainly ask. They can always say no, So I don't think it hurts. And especially if you're looking for a large quantity and you're buying in bulk, maybe they can give you a little discount. They want to get rid of the food just as much as you want to buy it. So visit with them, see what you can work out.
Are there advantages, I guess, in terms of quality, freshness, going to the farmer's market directly as opposed to a supermarket that we know is having this stuff brought in from a distance?
Yeah, well, of course it's locally grown, but most often those items are harvested either that day, that morning, or maybe the night before. So they're about as fresh as you can get other than growing it yourself. Especially if you're going to do any kind of food preservation, fresh is best. So the fresher you can get it, that's really a bonus. But you always want to handle it safely once you get home. Wash it well before you use it. Just because it's grown locally doesn't make it any safer. You still need to use good food handling practices at home.
And that involves the leafy stuff and anything that's come in contact with the ground.
Absolutely. Your leafy greens, any kind of your root vegetables and things like that, you want to wash them. If you can scrub them with a produce brush, scrub brush, to get into the cracks and crevices of some of those items, you definitely want to do that. Leafy greens, use your fingers and rub the leaves to make sure you get any stuck on dirt because it could be hiding in there.
I know it's too early to start the canning process, but this is really a time where we can take a few steps to make sure we're ready later in the season.
Yeah, this is a time, and actually I'm already starting to do some food preservation classes. So now's the time to check your equipment. If you have a pressure canner that has a dial gauge on top of it, you need to get it checked. This is something we recommend you doing every year. Most of the extension offices across Kansas have a pressure gauge tester. So give your extension office a call, and they'd be happy to help you. There are certain brands that we can only test. The Presto brand, National brand, Magic Seal, there's certain ones that we can test. The All-American brand pressure gauge we cannot test. So that is just something to keep in mind. But also check the canner itself. Make sure you check the gaskets. Make sure they're pliable. They don't have any cracks in them. You can get those replaced. Make sure that the vent stem is clear. There's no food stuck up in the vent because that's really, really important for the canner to pressurize properly. Check your other equipment like your jars. Make sure that they're clean. They don't have any scratches, no chips or nicks in them. If there's any kind of damage to them, you don't want to use them because they could crack in the canning process, and then you have a big mess. Lids, we only recommend using lids once, so one and done on those metal flats. So now's the time to look for new lids if you need some. You can hold over some from previous years, but you may need to build up your supply. And then check the other equipment that you have, the tools that you use, like the jar lifters and things. Make sure everything's working right before you get started, and then you find out, oh no, my equipment's not right.
Maybe also a time to make a check of what you already have on hand and either start eating some of that or think maybe we need to go in a different direction this year.
Right. Our recommendation on any kind of canned food is to use it within 1 year. So see what you've got in your cabinets yet, and it's time to get it used up.
You mentioned earlier about the canning process, and we wanted to mention the fact that you've been getting some questions lately about a certain type of canner that's relatively new to the market.
Yeah, there are some appliances out there now that we refer to as electric multi-cookers. They are a pressure-type system that is designed to just cook food, but they also say you can supposedly pressure can with these appliances. Be careful with those because the USDA and Extension has not done any testing, and we really don't know how well or how safe those appliances are to safely can your food. I know there's one brand that says to lay the jars on their sides inside the cooker, and that's just really dangerous. You could end up with jars that are leaking during the process. It's just really not a good practice. The other concern could be how long does the cycle really run for that particular product you're canning? We don't know if it's really long enough to safely get the temperature up where it needs to be. The other thing that could happen is if you're running the cycle and the power goes out, or if you have a power surge, what happens to the process? What happens to the temperature? Is there anything you can do with that? So it's really kind of risky. All of our recipes that we recommend are based on the stovetop type pressure canners. So we cannot say that those recipes are safe to use in these electric multi-cookers. Now, there is one slight exception to this. The Jardin Home Brands Company, they are the manufacturers of the Ball appliances and equipment. They have an appliance out there called an auto canner. This is not a pressure canner, but it looks like one of these pressure canners that I'm talking about. That is a water bath type system. It's not a pressure canning system. So I wanted to make sure that everybody's clear on that. So be very careful about these electric multi-cookers. Yes, you can cook in them, whatever you want to cook, but I'd be very careful about the canning.
And what we've talked about today, they can all find a lot of that same information on the Rapid Response Center website?
Yes, I have a whole section on food preservation, and I have a list of classes that I'm doing this year so far. My website is www.rrc.ksu.edu, and then there's a whole section on there on food preservation.
That's K-State Research and Extension food scientist Karen Blakeslee. She's also coordinator of the K-State Rapid Response Center, which has food safety and food preservation tips on its website, www.rrc.ksu.edu. More information is also available at county and district extension offices and on the extension website, www.ksre.ksu.edu. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman, and this is the K-State Radio Network.